The call came at 7:43 a.m. on a Tuesday 6 months and 8 days after they restructured my position. Parker Thompson, heavy Swedish accent, very polite. Mr. Phillips, we have discovered a significant problem with Cleveland Steel's compliance status. Are you available to discuss? I was drinking coffee in my little office above Murphy's Tavern, watching the sunrise over the Cleveland Industrial District. 6 months earlier, I had been Cleveland Steel's environmental compliance officer. Now, I was about to find out they'd made a $195 million mistake. My name's Wade Phillips, 49, and I've been keeping steel manufacturing companies legally compliant for 12 years. Before that, I spent 18 years in the Army Corps of Engineers, making sure dams didn't fail and bridges didn't collapse. Same principle, different uniform. When something breaks in civil engineering, communities suffer. When compliance breaks in steel manufacturing, companies die. The Army taught me that attention to detail isn't just about following rules. It's about understanding why those rules exist in the first place. In Iraq, I watched a contractor cut corners on a water treatment facility because the specs seemed overly cautious. 3 weeks later, half the base got dysentery. In Afghanistan, I saw engineers bypass environmental protocols to speed up a bridge project. The local river system was contaminated for months. Every shortcut has consequences. Sometimes you see them immediately. Sometimes they take years to surface, but they always surface. The day that started this whole mess was a Tuesday too. Bryce Anderson walked into our quarterly safety meeting and called my compliance team legacy waste with outdated operational overhead. I knew right then Cleveland Steel was heading for a cliff. Bryce had that entitled MBA energy you see everywhere now. Expensive suit, Apple Watch, and the kind of confidence that comes from never actually failing at anything that mattered. CEO's nephew, newly appointed VP of Operational Efficiency, whatever that meant, in a 73-year-old steel manufacturing company. He didn't shake hands when introduced. He gave finger waves and said things like disruptive optimization and lean agility while sipping a $15 protein shake like he'd invented efficiency. I'd seen his type in the military. Fresh lieutenants straight from West Point who thought they could revolutionize tactics that had kept soldiers alive for decades. Most of them learned fast when reality hit. The smart ones listened to their sergeants. The stupid ones got people killed. Nobody asked Bryce to present that day. Nobody stopped him either. He clicked through a PowerPoint titled Streamlining Legacy Functions Phase 1. Phase 1, it turned out, was gutting my department. I'd been Cleveland Steel's named Environmental Compliance Officer for 12 years. That's 12 years of building safety protocols from scratch, watching regulatory changes sweep through steel manufacturing like hurricanes, documenting every nightmare scenario the EPA, OSHA, and Clean Water Act could throw at us. I had 5 external audits under my belt with 0 violations. My filing cabinets were organized like an Army logistics system, everything labeled, dated, cross-referenced. I could find any document in under 2 minutes. I knew every regulation by number and could recite the compliance requirements from memory. This wasn't just paperwork to me. It was institutional knowledge built through experience, mistakes, and lessons learned the hard way. Bryce didn't even know what Clean Air Act permitting meant. I watched him Google it during the meeting. That morning, he stood there grinning with his uncle's company credit card, called compliance an outdated support function, and suggested we automate oversight using digital solutions. My department was redundant, he said. Overstaffed, my $78,000 salary plus $12,500 in benefits eliminated. That's $90,500 in annual savings, he bragged. Almost a full marketing budget upgrade. Someone actually clapped. I looked around the room at faces I'd worked with for over a decade. People whose safety certifications I'd personally handled. People whose jobs I'd protected by making sure we stayed ahead of regulatory changes. Not one of them spoke up. I didn't either. I just capped my pen and asked, "Are we done here?" Bryce left with his spreadsheet and a satisfied little nod. I went back to my office and opened a fresh binder. It wasn't anger. It wasn't even surprise. It was protocol, military habit. When someone's about to make a catastrophic mistake, you document everything and prepare for damage control. The Army Corps taught me something important about disasters. They're rarely caused by single failures. It's usually a chain of small oversights, ignored warnings, and cut corners that eventually cascade into something catastrophic. The Johnstown flood wasn't caused by rain. It was caused by decades of deferred maintenance on a dam that everyone knew was vulnerable. The Francis Scott Key Bridge collapse in Baltimore wasn't caused by the ship hitting it. It was caused by years of ignoring infrastructure vulnerabilities that made the bridge susceptible to that kind of impact. Cleveland Steel was about to learn that lesson the hard way. I started backing up files. Every access credential, every compliance designation, every legal document where my name appeared as the responsible authority. Most people at Cleveland Steel didn't realize our entire regulatory framework still required my formal signature. Every quarterly filing, every environmental certification, every audit response had Wade Phillips listed as primary contact. No replacement had been designated. Nobody could replace me without board approval and formal reassignment paperwork filed within 21 calendar days. But Bryce didn't know that. His uncle Shane, the CEO, probably didn't either. They saw compliance as a cost center, not a critical business function. In their minds, environmental regulations were just government bureaucracy that slowed down real business. They didn't understand that those regulations existed because steel manufacturing done wrong can literally kill people and destroy entire ecosystems. At first, I thought someone would pump the brakes. Maybe HR would hesitate. Maybe Shane, who once called me the guy who keeps us out of federal prison, might speak up. But nothing. HR sent the reclassification paperwork 4 days later. My new title, Senior Administrative Coordinator. My security clearance was downgraded. My invitations to leadership meetings disappeared overnight. I nodded. No complaints. Even congratulated Bryce when he bragged about hitting his first efficiency target. He actually gave me a thumbs up and called me Wade P. Like we were buddies now that he'd neutered my authority. So I printed the original environmental compliance designation letter, the one signed by the board in 2018, and emailed it to my personal account with a timestamp. Then I printed 2 copies. One went into my home filing cabinet, the other into a binder labeled Regulatory Continuity, Archive Only, and quietly placed it in the legal department storage room. 4th shelf, left side. I didn't tell anyone. See, people think revenge needs to be loud. Dramatic exits and angry speeches about being unappreciated. But nobody appreciates a landmine either until someone steps on it. In the Army, we had a saying, the most dangerous enemy is the one who knows your weaknesses better than you do. Bryce thought he was playing corporate efficiency games. I was playing by federal regulatory law. Different rules, different consequences. The real beauty was in Section 12.3 of our business continuity plan. A clause I'd added 5 years ago after watching a competitor get hammered with $422 million in fines for improper compliance handoffs. It stated that any change to the named environmental compliance officer must be formally reassigned by board resolution within 21 calendar days, or the designation becomes legally invalid retroactive to the vacancy date. Steel manufacturing environmental compliance fines start at $5,000 per day for minor violations. After 90 days of continued violation, they escalate to $15,000 per day. The math gets ugly fast, but the real killer isn't the fines. It's what happens when your regulatory standing gets questioned during a major business transaction. Banks get nervous. Insurance companies reassess. Potential buyers run due diligence that can spot compliance gaps from orbit. Bryce had no idea. Legal hadn't checked. Shane just signed off on the efficiency report without reading the details. They saw immediate cost savings and stopped thinking. Classic mistake. In the military, we called it tactical tunnel vision, focusing so hard on the immediate objective that you miss the larger strategic picture. 6 weeks after the streamlining, I submitted my resignation. Clean and simple. Effective 14 days from today, I will be stepping down from my position at Cleveland Steel Manufacturing. That's it. No drama, no exit interview demands, no company-wide email about being undervalued. They processed it like routine paperwork, disabled my access by end of day. The IT ticket was so rushed, they misspelled my name and forgot to update the compliance registry. My son Cooper called that night to check on me. He's a junior at Ohio State studying environmental engineering. Smart kid, smarter than his old man in most ways. But he inherited my attention to detail and my stubborn streak. Dad, you sure about this? What about my tuition? Spring semester's coming up. Cooper's always been practical about money. Growing up with a single dad who worked government and military jobs teaches you that financial security isn't guaranteed. His mother and I divorced when he was 12. Not bitter, just incompatible. She wanted the suburban dream with a husband who worked banker's hours. I wanted to serve my country and do work that mattered. We stayed friends, split custody fairly. Both showed up for his baseball games and parent conferences. But Cooper learned early that Dad's income was the steady one paying for his education. Trust me, son, this is going to work out. Your old man didn't spend 18 years in the Army Corps without learning how to plan for contingencies. Sounds like you've got something up your sleeve. Just following proper procedures. Sometimes that's all it takes. That weekend, I updated my profile on the Federal Environmental Registry, setting my certification to active, executive designation relinquished, no replacement filed, effective day 28. Then I registered as an independent consultant, specializing in crisis compliance recovery. 24 hours later, my phone started ringing. By Monday, I had 4 serious inquiries. 2 from law firms representing companies in regulatory trouble. 1 from a boutique consulting group that specialized in helping manufacturers navigate EPA investigations, and 1 from a European steel conglomerate that specialized in acquiring American mid-market manufacturers. That last one made me smile. European companies don't mess around with compliance. They've been dealing with strict environmental regulations for decades. When they buy American companies, the first thing they do is conduct exhaustive due diligence on regulatory standing. They've learned from experience that compliance problems can turn profitable acquisitions into expensive disasters. Across town, Cleveland Steel hummed along without missing a beat. No exit procedures, no knowledge transfer, no replacement training. Bryce was already planning phase 2 of his optimization strategy, which apparently involved outsourcing IT support and consolidating the maintenance department. Shane started talking about the company's new agility mindset in industry interviews, praising Bryce's fresh perspective and willingness to challenge legacy thinking. Nobody noticed the compliance clock ticking toward day 22. Nobody except me. I set up shop in a small office above Murphy's Tavern on West 25th Street. 2 desks, a coffee maker that worked half the time, and a view of the old Republic Steel Works. The irony wasn't lost on me. Republic Steel had been one of Cleveland's industrial giants for decades, before foreign competition and changing markets forced them to close. Now their empty buildings stood as monuments to what happens when industries fail to adapt. But there's a difference between adapting to market forces and ignoring regulatory requirements. Markets are unpredictable. Regulations are not. Rent was $850 a month. My first consulting contract paid $265 per hour. The math worked better than my old salary, but more importantly, I was building something sustainable. Companies in compliance trouble don't haggle over hourly rates. They need problems fixed fast, and they're willing to pay for expertise. Every morning, I'd walk downstairs and get coffee from Murphy, old Irish guy who'd run the place for 40 years. We'd talk about the Browns, the weather, sometimes about business. He knew I'd left Cleveland Steel but didn't pry. Military guys understand when someone doesn't want to talk about work. Day 43 of Cleveland Steel's compliance violation. I got a call from a steel fabrication company in Michigan. Their compliance officer had quit without notice, and they were facing a regulatory audit in 6 weeks. Panic mode. I quoted them $320 per hour plus expenses for a 5-week emergency engagement. They said yes before I finished the sentence. The work was familiar but intense. Their previous compliance officer had been cutting corners for months, filing incomplete reports and missing critical deadlines. I spent the first week just understanding how deep the problems went. By week 2, I was working 12-hour days, reconstructing their documentation trail, preparing for an audit that could shut them down if it went badly. The Army taught me that crisis management is about triage. You can't fix everything at once, so you prioritize based on what will cause the most damage if it fails. Environmental violations that could result in criminal charges get handled first. Safety violations that could kill workers come second. Everything else waits. This Michigan company had all 3 categories of problems. Their wastewater discharge permits were expired. Their air quality monitoring equipment hadn't been calibrated in 8 months. Their hazardous waste storage area was a disaster waiting to happen. But they also had 400 employees who needed those paychecks and families who depended on that plant staying open. I worked through it systematically, the same way I'd approached bridge construction in combat zones. Identify critical failure points, shore up immediate risks, then build sustainable long-term solutions. By the time the EPA auditors arrived, we had everything in order. Clean audit, 0 violations, plant stayed operational. The client was so impressed they offered me a permanent position at twice my old Cleveland Steel salary. I thanked them but explained I was building something bigger. Day 67. I was on a plane to Indiana helping a steel processing plant navigate an EPA investigation. Their previous compliance team had missed a Clean Water Act filing deadline, and the government was threatening criminal charges. The potential fines were in the millions, but the criminal liability was what scared them. White-collar federal prison time for environmental crimes isn't a joke. This case was different. The company had actually been trying to comply, but their compliance officer was overwhelmed and undertrained. Good intentions, bad execution. I spent 3 weeks working with their legal team and the EPA regional office, demonstrating good faith efforts and negotiating a settlement that kept everyone out of prison. Cooper called me while I was in Indianapolis, excited about his environmental engineering courses. Dad, my professor was talking about the Cleveland Industrial Corridor today. Said it's becoming a model for sustainable steel production because of all the European investment. You were part of that, weren't you? In a way, I told him. Sometimes the best contribution you can make is knowing when to get out of the way. Professor says there's huge demand for environmental compliance specialists. Companies are realizing they can't afford to ignore environmental regulations anymore. The fines are too big, and the criminal liability is too scary. Cooper was right. The industry was changing. The days of treating environmental regulations as suggestions were over. Companies that didn't adapt were getting crushed by regulatory enforcement. Companies that did adapt were thriving because they could operate without fear of shutdown orders or criminal investigations. Day 89, the escalating fine structure kicked in for Cleveland Steel. Not that anyone there knew it yet. Steel manufacturing environmental compliance violations become exponentially more expensive. After 90 days, the daily penalty jumped from $5,000 to $15,000. Still invisible, still accumulating, still retroactive. I was back in Cleveland when Murphy mentioned he'd heard rumors about Cleveland Steel being in acquisition talks. Big European company, apparently. Lot of suits with foreign accents been seen around the steel district. That so, I said, sipping my coffee. My nephew works security at the executive office building, says they've been having a lot more meetings lately. Fancy catering, the whole 9 yards. Sounds like they're trying to impress someone. Day 95, Cooper called with news. He'd been accepted into Ohio State's Accelerated Environmental Compliance Program. New field, growing demand, excellent job prospects. Guess who inspired me to look into it, he said. Your old man's rubbing off on you. More like I realized there's job security in keeping people out of trouble. Plus, the starting salaries are really good. Professor says with all these European companies buying American steel plants, they need people who understand both sides of the regulatory environment. Cooper was right about the European acquisitions. Foreign companies with deep pockets were snapping up American manufacturers, but they needed local expertise to navigate federal regulations. Someone who understood both the technical requirements and the business impact. Someone who could keep them out of the kind of regulatory trouble that could destroy a $195 million acquisition. The irony wasn't lost on me. Cleveland Steel was about to become exactly the kind of acquisition target that would need my services. They just didn't know it yet. Day 12. Cleveland Steel announced the deal of the century. Press release went out at 9 a.m. Cleveland Steel Manufacturing to be acquired by European Steel Corporation for $19.5 million. The story made the Cleveland Business Journal front page. Shane Collins was quoted extensively about Cleveland Steel's innovative operational transformation under new leadership. Bryce Anderson was quoted too. He'd positioned himself as the architect of Cleveland Steel's lean operational model that attracted international attention. The article mentioned his strategic elimination of redundant legacy functions as a key factor in European Steel's interest. We've successfully modernized our operational framework, Bryce told the reporter. By eliminating outdated overhead costs and implementing digital efficiency solutions, we've created the kind of agile, profitable operation that European Steel was looking for in an American acquisition target. I read it over my morning coffee at Murphy's. Murphy saw me smiling at the newspaper. Good news, he asked. You could say that. Sometimes patience pays off. My grandfather used to say something else about the steel business. The furnace that burns hottest melts the steel. But if you don't tend the fire right, the whole thing comes down. Day 135, the due diligence team from European Steel Corporation arrived in Cleveland. Professional, thorough, and led by a woman named Riley Martinez, who spoke 4 languages and had the kind of attention to detail that made European engineering legendary. Her team included Parker Thompson, a compliance specialist who'd spent 15 years auditing American acquisitions for European steel companies. They weren't the kind of people who missed details. They weren't the kind of people who took corporate press releases at face value. They were the kind of people who checked everything twice and trusted nothing until they'd verified it personally. Cleveland Steel was about to learn the difference between American business optimism and European engineering skepticism. They spent the first week reviewing financial records, operational metrics, and safety protocols. Everything looked clean. Bryce had prepared beautiful presentations about streamlined operations and reduced overhead. The numbers were impressive. The timeline was aggressive. Shane had already started talking about integration plans. European steel executives were optimistic. This looked like exactly the kind of lean, efficient American steel manufacturer they wanted in their portfolio. Cleveland Steel's management team was confident. Legal had reviewed everything twice. The deal was on track for closing in 2 weeks. Bryce was already planning his post-acquisition role, talking about heading up operational integration for European Steel's North American expansion. Day 14-9, exactly 21 compliance cycles, since my designation had been terminated without replacement. Parker Thompson was in Cleveland Steel's legal archive room cross-referencing regulatory filings with personnel records. Routine due diligence, nothing unusual. He wasn't looking for problems, just verifying that all certifications were current and properly maintained. That's when he found my binder. 4th shelf, left side, exactly where I'd left it 5 months earlier. Regulatory continuity, archive only. Parker opened it and started reading. The original environmental compliance designation letter, the business continuity plan with section 12.3 highlighted, the timeline requirements, the board resolution from 218 that was never superseded. Parker spent an hour going through every document, then he cross-referenced the dates with Cleveland Steel's current compliance registry. Then he called Riley Martinez. The math was simple and brutal. Day 22 through day 14-8 equals 127 days of compliance violation. First 90 days at $5,000 per day equals $450,000 per. Remaining 37 days at $15,000 per day equals $555,000. Total exposure $1,005,000 and climbing at $15,000 per day until resolved. But it got worse. Because no replacement had been designated, every regulatory filing, every environmental certification, every compliance document submitted during those 127 days was legally invalid. Cleveland Steel had been misrepresenting its regulatory standing to customers, insurers, and potential buyers for over 4 months, including European Steel Corporation. Day 149, Thursday morning, 9:15 a.m., Parker Thompson walked into the Cleveland Steel boardroom carrying a folder that would destroy everything Bryce had built. "Who is Wade Phillips?" he asked, setting the folder on the conference table. Bryce looked confused. "He used to work here. We restructured his position last year as part of our operational optimization. But he is still listed as your named environmental compliance officer," Parker said, opening the folder. "According to your federal registry and this documentation, he remains the designated authority for all regulatory filings." Shane leaned forward. "That's impossible. We handled his transition months ago." Parker wasn't smiling. "Where is the board resolution replacing him? The formal reassignment documentation? The updated federal notifications?" Silence. Bryce started typing frantically on his phone. Shane was already reaching for his. Legal was called out of another meeting. HR scrambled to find records that didn't exist. "We assumed the transition was automatic when we restructured his role," someone from HR offered weakly. Parker shook his head. "Federal compliance designations are never automatic. They require explicit board action and formal replacement within 21 calendar days. You have been operating without valid compliance authority for exactly 127 days?" Riley Martinez, who had been quietly reviewing Parker's findings, looked up from her laptop. "This represents a material misrepresentation of regulatory standing during preliminary negotiations." Bryce tried to salvage the situation. "It's just paperwork. We can fix this in a day. Bring Wade back, file the forms, move forward." "No," Riley said firmly. "You cannot retroactively fix federal compliance violations. Environmental compliance fines escalate after 90 days. Your current exposure is over $1 million, increasing by $15,000 daily. The room went dead quiet. Shane's face had gone gray. Surely we can resolve this. It's a procedural oversight. Parker opened his laptop and turned the screen toward the table. Your compliance violations create significant liability exposure for any acquiring entity. But more concerning is the pattern of misrepresentation. Mr. Phillips left detailed documentation showing that proper procedures were available and ignored. He clicked to the next slide. Section 12.3 of your own business continuity plan, authored by Mr. Phillips, explicitly outlines the 21-day requirement. This was not an oversight. This was negligence. Bryce's voice cracked slightly. We didn't see that documentation. It was filed in your legal archive with clear labeling, Parker replied. Mr. Phillips followed proper procedure. Your organization did not. Riley Martinez closed her laptop slowly. This is a material breach of due diligence representations. We need to pause acquisition proceedings pending legal review. That afternoon, Parker called me directly. Professional courtesy, he said. I was in my office above Murphy's working on a compliance manual for a client in Pennsylvania. The call was expected. I'd been counting days on my calendar, watching the violation accumulate like compound interest. Mr. Phillips, this is Parker Thompson from European Steel Corporation. We are reviewing Cleveland Steel's regulatory standing as part of acquisition due diligence. Yes, sir. How can I help you? I gave him the timeline, confirmed no replacement had been designated, mentioned the binder in legal storage. When he asked if European Steel might be interested in consulting services, I explained my current rate structure and availability. We may have extensive work available. Parker said, European Steel is expanding aggressively in North America. We need someone who understands both the regulatory environment and the consequences of noncompliance. Day 150, Friday morning. Riley Martinez called an emergency meeting and laid out the situation in terms that left no room for interpretation. The acquisition was terminated effective immediately. European Steel could not accept the liability exposure created by Cleveland Steel's compliance failures. The press release went out Monday morning. Cleveland Steel stock opened down 22% and kept falling. By market close, it had dropped 38% in a single day. Tuesday morning, my phone rang. Riley Martinez offered me an 18-month contract with European Steel Corporation, $285 per hour, full autonomy, comprehensive compliance review of their entire North American operation. 6 months later, I moved into my corner office on the 15th floor of European Steel's Cleveland headquarters. Cleveland Steel had been sold in pieces. Shane Collins retired early. Bryce Anderson's LinkedIn profile said he was exploring new opportunities in operational excellence. Cooper called that weekend with news about his summer internship with an environmental compliance firm in Columbus. Following in Dad's footsteps, he said, Professor was right about job security. There's always demand for people who can keep companies out of trouble. That evening, I walked down to Murphy's for coffee. How's the new job, he asked. Can't complain. Turns out experience is worth something after all. You know what my grandfather used to say about the steel business? The man who knows why the furnace was built that way will always have work. The man who thinks he can build it better without asking why will always be looking for work. Some people spend their careers trying to be seen. I spent mine knowing where the emergency exits were located. They didn't replace me, they erased me. And like any good safety protocol, the consequences were built right into the system. Business is good, really good. Just took them $195 million to figure that out. Bryce had called compliance legacy waste with outdated operational overhead. Turns out legacy knowledge is what keeps companies alive when the regulations change and the lawyers come calling. Some people spend their careers trying to be seen. I spent mine knowing where the emergency exits were located. The mistake at Cleveland Steel wasn't assuming someone else would read the safety manual when I left. It was assuming anyone would bother to look for one at all.